I'm joined now by Victor Gao. He's the chair professor at Soochow University, and by Sourabh Gupta. He's a senior Asia-Pacific International Relations Policy Specialist at the Institute for China-America Studies. Thank you both for being with us. Victor, let's piggyback off what Neil Bush said, because really this all starts with the people-to-people exchange. You got Glenn Cowan, he slept in, he races downstairs, he ends up in the wrong bus. It's the Chinese bus. But he's a free spirit, but you've got Zhang Zhidong, who gives him a piece of tapestry satin as a gift. Cowan returns later with his own gift, and suddenly you have these two sides speaking to one another, and then you have the invitation to go to China, and the rest is history, isn't it?
Indeed, I would say the Chinese people and the American people all benefited from this coincidence in history. However, please allow me to mention that this coincidence in history also has historical inevitability behind it. Why? Because the Chinese people and the American people should be destined to deal with each other, get along with each other in friendship, rather than being locked up in hostility against it. Hostility between the Chinese people and the American people in the 1950s, in the 1960s, all the way up to 1971, when the ping pong diplomacy broke up, was not inevitable. It was not working good for the Chinese people and the American people. And I think today, China and the United States are faced with the same challenges. We should not be destined to be hostile against each other. We should be destined towards friendship and goodwill towards each other. This is the historical context when the ping pong diplomacy broke out 50 years ago. I hope this will also be the historical context when the second ping pong diplomacy, or the ping pong diplomacy 2.0, will take place. I do hope the mixed Chinese teams will win the championship. They will win gold or silver or bronze, and they will rekindle the friendship and goodwill between the Chinese people and the American people.
Sourabh, can these two countries, beset with disputes, rekindle some of the magic of ping pong diplomacy? We just saw the teams finishing up their game, all smiles. The mantra was friendship first, competition second. Have both countries lost sight of that ideal? And is it Pollyanna to think that maybe we can go back in time and recapture some of that?
I think some of that can absolutely be recaptured. You know, when President Nixon spoke, he talked about differences not drifting into hostility. And what the US-China relationship was warm. It was a constructive relationship. There is a certain artificiality to the hostilities which have been forced into the relationship, and the relationship is not on a very strong foundation, and therefore it has really been hit hard by these wins, particularly since President Trump came in. It's not easy to get rid of that ill wind in the relationship, especially at a time when it's not just China rising vis-a-vis the United States, but it's in a way the rest of the world rising vis-a-vis the West after almost 300, 400, maybe even half a millennia. It's not an easy transition to stomach, and therefore it requires more patience, and it requires both sides to approach matters with a spirit of constructiveness, simply because it is so important, and the challenges that we face are also only manageable in a way if the two countries cooperate and bring good spirit to that relationship.
And Victor, relationships aren't manufactured, they're nourished over time. It's interesting, Cowan, who, as we told the story, got on that bus, died in 2004. And right after his death, Zhang called his mother to express his condolences. And he said one of his deep regrets is that he never got a chance to see his old friend again before his death. And then Zhang died in 2013. These two men are really footnotes in history in a sense, but we owe them a debt of gratitude, don't we?
Absolutely. I think indeed they are both historical figures by now. However, I do hope the Chinese people and the American people will keep their good spirits in our memory forever. Why? Because they were ordinary private citizens at that time. They were athletes. However, they demonstrated the best for the Chinese people and the American people. They stretched out their hands towards each other, and they brought the two great nations together. This is exactly what we need today. We do not need miracles. We need a genuine friendship and goodwill between the Chinese people and the American people. And if we can be blessed with miracles, even the better. I think we need everything to work in the same direction so that the Chinese people and the American people can view each other not as enemies, but as friends, as people we need to get along with, and we will get along with. Friendship and goodwill and mutual benefit will definitely be better than any confrontation or rivalry between these two great nations. I truly believe that the so-called destined to war is the false destiny for the Chinese people and the American people. I truly believe the inevitability of peace between China and the United States will be the true destiny for our two nations, and both of us, the Chinese nation and the American nation, will promote peace and development and engagement and mutual benefit for our own benefit and also for mankind's saving and further growth.
And sir, this is the first time the tournament is being held in the United States. Another piece of history in the finals. We will see China and the U.S. joining forces. We just saw the ceremonial game just a moment ago. Two pairs will be made up of both Chinese and American players side by side in these mixed doubles competition, marking the 50-year anniversary of ping pong diplomacy. Talk to us about the importance of the symbolism of this gesture.
Oh, I think it's very, very symbolic, especially considering where the two countries were in 1970 during that hard period from once the Cold War, of course, set in, but the hostilities were really aggravated through the 50s and early 1960s, and the situation obviously was not very good. It wasn't the relations were terrible, frankly, and what it shows actually is also the importance of high level leadership being committed to turning the relationship around. At both sides, there was that high level commitment from Chairman Mao and from President Nixon at different moments during the latter half of the 1960s. And this was woven it was threaded together in a very nuanced way, including how ping pong diplomacy then played itself out. And it's important that, these things have a sort of a virtuous cycle kind of effect, because then at some point of time thereafter, Kissinger went to China. And it was announced that before May 1972, the president was also going to come to China. And that itself then got the momentum going at the United Nations in terms of seating China out there. And so you see a kind of a virtuous cycle kicking in by just incremental acts, but in a way, magical acts. And it is those sort of acts that need to be recreated. These things, it requires top level leadership coming in out there, committed, pulling in the same direction, and then this sort of symbolism also being overlaid with that support being brought in by top level leadership. And that can really, I think US-China relations can re-blossom again at a different point of time. It will take a little time, but we have to understand the greatest factor for peace, prosperity, and stability in Asia through millennia has been consolidated rule in the Chinese capital city, which has radiated outwards in Asia. For the last 70 years, the United States has been a great trustee in a way for peace and prosperity in Asia. And therefore, when these two powerful countries engage each other, is it worth it that the two fight together at each other and take Asia down at a time when they themselves have been the best trustees for peace, prosperity, and stability? And that is the question high-level leadership needs to ask itself going forward, so that this relationship can again be placed on settled foundations and can blossom.